In honor of WrestleMania 32 being just around the corner, well, not really, I'm gonna do it anyway. Here's 20 moments of WrestleMania that sucked. Number 20 is The Rock passing the torch to John Cena at WrestleMania 29. I actually have a lot more to say about this match later on in the video, but a smaller moment that was still terrible took place after the boring rematch filled with endless finishing moves. Upon walking to the top of the stage, The Rock joined Cena, and he raised his arm up in victory, which pissed the fans off on top of their already evident contempt for the match they just saw. Cena's like 5 years younger than The Rock, and he's held so many more titles. He's not some underdog kid, nor has he been since maybe 2004. It's only going to make people mad at this point. This tactic has been attempted in WWE for years, and it's where they try to use a guy who's actually over, and they hope to siphon his heat to somebody the crowd hates. What is it, 10 years as of this video? Cena is still being overpushed and despised? Number 19, Sheamus vs Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 28. I know a lot of wrestling fans like to complain about this match because their precious Daniel Bryan lost his title, just like WrestleMania 30 is one of the greatest shows ever just because he won the main event. You can probably tell I don't like him, but I still hated this match. The obvious reason for that is the World Heavyweight Championship match opened WrestleMania, which they kept doing rather, while the title was still existing, and it only lasted 18 seconds. The year before that, Sheamus vs Daniel Bryan was on the card once again, although it was moved to the pre-show in favor of making more room for Snooki. Maybe they could have stolen the show once or twice in a row, but we'll never know, will we? Another gripe I have with the match being short is that it was all for a storyline. Apparently Sheamus was supposed to get cheered by the fans for making 18 seconds jokes, and everyone knows that didn't work one bit. Funny enough, he's actually doing that with the Sheamus 515, so he's got a real thing for time. Number 18, Undertaker vs Sycho Sid at WrestleMania 13. The planned main event was originally going to be Shawn Michaels vs Bret Hart in a rematch from the previous year, but Shawn faked a knee injury so he didn't have to wrestle, since the plan was for him to lose this time around. Instead of that, we got this. Here's a random fact for you: Sid has only wrestled at 2 WrestleManias, 5 years apart, and he main evented both of them. Too bad they were both lame matches though. It's quite rare that a match with 2 huge guys in it is ever good. Think of Kane vs Big Show or Batista vs Great Khali. The pace is way too slow, and Khali sucks no matter what, but hopefully you know what I mean. Back to WrestleMania 13, this match was a total mess, with Shawn on commentary pretending to be injured, Bret Hart repeatedly interfering, and there's even a rumor that Sid shat himself following a power slam. Number 17, Roman Reigns being portrayed as an equal to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. Somehow, the most recent WrestleMania was the last part of the script I wrote down. How could you forget though? How many of you out there like Roman Reigns? Nothing? That's what I thought. Even if you are a fan, I think we can agree that his push feels, or felt at the very least, very unauthentic and forced. So much so that there's recent evidence of WWE trying to add in audio of the crowd cheering during his entrance on Raw. After an unintentionally hilarious Royal Rumble match, there is a monumental task of making Reigns look like a threat to Lesnar, which is hard to do when he's an overprotected green wrestler who relies on the Shield nostalgia for cheers, and has to wear a Kevlar suit to make him look more muscular. A number of edited promos and sit-down video packages were prepared, since anything he does live usually sucks. For those about to disagree, Suffrin' Succotash, Jack and the Beanstalk, and Tater Tots say otherwise. Paul Heyman had to do most of the work, frequently referring to Reigns as a Samoan badass, which I personally found embarrassing since it's one of those labels that's given out to someone that doesn't really embody that thing. To elaborate, it's kinda similar to Dean Ambrose being called a lunatic 10 times during a match, when he doesn't really do anything remotely crazy aside from sticking his tongue out, which kinda looks more like he's trying to catch snowflakes than being insane. I actually liked this match as a spectacle, not really for the wrestling, and thank God Roman didn't walk out with a title. Adding on to this right now, as I'm recording this audio, Roman just won the world title on Raw. I'm actually starting to like the guy, but how long will he be over before the crowd changes their mind? You could argue that with this type of booking, like attacking Triple H, being able to use weapons, etc., that anyone could get more over than Roman did, but that remains to be seen, and we'll just have to see how it turns out, but him against Lesnar, not very believable. Number 16, the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25. While I've never liked women's wrestling one bit, and still don't, whoever thought of this Battle Royal must be pretty damn stupid. In that case, I'm sure it was probably Vince. A lot of WrestleMania matches with the Divas seem to contain several of them, if not the entire roster. I'd like to ask, is there a reason for this? Because I always hear about the company fitting as many wrestlers on the card as they can, so the roster gets a huge paycheck for WrestleMania. But I do find it confusing when you'd think WWE would want to save money, or at least give a larger bonus to the stars people pay to see. So let me know if I am just being really dumb, because I don't understand. But with that out of the way, WrestleMania 25's Divas match was a 25-woman battle royal where the winner would be crowned Miss WrestleMania, a title that means nothing. But after a pitiful 7 minutes, the winner was Santina Marella, which you can likely predict was Santino in a dress. The Divas division still sucks right now in my opinion, but at least it's not currently this bad, and probably never will be again. Number 15 is a sumo match at WrestleMania 21. The theme for WrestleMania 21 was WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, which included a lot of film references, and for some reason a sumo wrestler, Akebono, made his first appearance in WWE about 3 days before WrestleMania, where he accepted Big Show's challenge for a sumo match. I can't remember whatever prompted Big Show to ask for a non-WWE style wrestling match at the biggest WWE wrestling event of the year, or who was legitimately interested in seeing it. In typical Big Show fashion, he lost at WrestleMania yet again, and this segment was so bad the only thing we have to remember is the unflattering physique of both men completely spilling out of their sumo thongs. Number 14 is Kid Rock's performance at WrestleMania 25. Music acts that aren't the national anthem are almost always crap at WrestleMania, and Kid Rock might solidify why that is. The official theme songs were Shoot to Thrill and War Machine by AC/DC, and as expensive as it would be, wouldn't it make sense to have them perform? Needing an absolutely stacked band, DJ, and backup singers to hide his lack of talent and stage presence, Kid cycled through some hits, well, if it was 1999, like Ba with a Ba in between camera shots of a crowd who wasn't moving and just wanted him to leave. Not like I'm ever vocal about giving the Divas more time to wrestle, but this performance lasted about twice as long as the entire 25-woman battle royal. Picture that. Number 13, the Miller Lite Catfight girls at WrestleMania 19. I know this is bound to get some comments similar to my other video, such as, "Are you gay, bro? Hot women rolling around on a bed is so fucking epic." But it was an extremely pointless segment with Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, and 2 other women having a lame pillow fight and pulling Jonathan Coachman's pants down. Sounds more like softcore porn. The tag team title match was actually left off the card in favor of this, and I bet Stone Cold got a lot more sales for Miller Lite and he didn't have to show off his own ass on TV. Number 12, Undertaker hangs Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 15. Although the match quality has really gone down the toilet since Hell in a Cell was turned into an annual pay-per-view, the Undertaker vs Big Boss Man Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 15 could possibly be named the worst of all time. Younger fans may have been expecting something similar to King of the Ring 1998, that Cell match that took place less than a year prior to this one, but they must have overlooked the fact that Big Boss Man was pretty boring and definitely wasn't going to be taking any bumps. Undertaker won after a short while that still felt like eternity, and then he hung Boss Man from a rope around his neck that was tied to the cage and had the cell raised up to the ceiling. Lawler's goofy, high-pitched voice yelling, "Bah! Get him down!" at half volume while Michael Cole asked over and over, "Is it symbolic? Is it symbolic? You have to wonder, is it symbolic?" did very little to make it look like a man wasn't being murdered live on pay-per-view. For those of you who were kids when you saw this moment, do let me know if you thought it was real at the time. Number 11, Triple H vs Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25. My interest in wrestling was really declining at this time and it had nothing to do with growing up. The show was utter crap. I do remember looking forward to Triple H and Orton at WrestleMania because the build was quite interesting. Orton handcuffed Triple H to the ring and made out with Stephanie while she was passed out, and Triple H responded by breaking into Orton's house and smashing shit. When a feud gets this intense, isn't some kind of stipulation match in order? Hell in a Cell, TLC, no disqualification at least? The opposite and most idiotic thing happened instead. It was announced that Triple H would lose the title if he got disqualified. How the hell does that make sense? What followed was a boring, miserable match that felt like the main event of Raw, a main event that I would probably skip. The crowd was completely drained from the streak match earlier, which should have closed the show in the first place, and I don't think you'll find anyone who will disagree. Number 10, Stone Cold turns heel at WrestleMania 17. Hear me out before typing a comment. The main event of Stone Cold vs. The Rock was one of the best of all time, not doubting that at all. However, the ending was kind of a misfire. Mr. McMahon breaks up The Rock's pin and hands Austin a chair, allowing him to win the title. The crowd cheered anyway because, according to Austin in his book, the crowd thought Vince was turning face until they shook hands at the end of the show. A lot of fans think this heel turn from Stone Cold was unnecessary, and despite the argument that he needed to change his character to stay fresh, all he ended up doing for a while was strumming a guitar and singing off key, which I thought was really annoying. Some people also wonder if this moment ended the Attitude Era. However, I think that it was going to end anyways, no matter if Stone Cold won, lost, turned heel, stayed face, whatever, but you can discuss that if you want. Number 9, Bret Hart vs. Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 26. This would have been an epic match for the ages if it had taken place before the year 2000, since the Montreal Screwjob would still be fresh in everyone's mind, and Bret could still, wrestle, or talk. For those of you who weren't aware, Goldberg kicked him in the head during a match, and the concussion made him retire. Like WWE is known to do, they heavily relied on the past in order to get fans to buy WrestleMania 26, and they used Bret's renewed forgiveness towards the company on a match with Vince. Believe it or not, the 64-year-old McMahon was not the weak link of the match. He's actually had several entertaining WrestleMania matches, filled with gimmicks and weapons, but still very fun to watch. The whole idea was incredibly limited since Bret can't wrestle anymore, and he had to rely on a steel chair to the back, remember no shots to the head, a lot of punching and standing around doing nothing while a bunch of his family members got involved. Very boring. Don't watch this match. Number 8, Undertaker vs. Giant Gonzales at WrestleMania 9. For the decade that Undertaker's winning streak at WrestleMania was hyped up to be a big deal, there was a whole 10 years of garbage like this. If you think Undertaker is a large man, Giant Gonzales was almost a whole foot taller at 7'7". This is a prime example of big man vs. big man matches being terrible, since Gonzales may have sucked in the ring even worse than the Great Khali. 7 minutes felt like an hour, and the majority of the match was based on, can the Undertaker knock the big guy down, which never makes for compelling TV. The grand finish was one of the largest men in the world having to get himself disqualified by smothering Undertaker in a rag soaked in chloroform. Yes, the illustrious streak includes a victory by getting himself knocked out. After such a lame match, wouldn't you think Vince would stop pairing Undertaker against huge guys who could barely wrestle? Well, the next WrestleMania match he had was against King Kong Bundy. The one after that was against Diesel, and the one after that was Sycho Sid. Don't let modern WWE lore fool you, the streak was filled with junk until about 2001. Number 7, Twice in a Lifetime at WrestleMania 29. The day after WrestleMania 27 in 2011, it was already announced that The Rock would face John Cena in a once-in-a-lifetime match at next year's show. The match itself turned out to be nothing special at all, but it was fine, I guess. WWE soon threw out the once-in-a-lifetime slogan because 2013's main event was the same thing, this time for the WWE Championship. Cena spent months saying, "Rock didn't beat me, I beat me," which annoyed a lot of the audience because he can never sell a loss or admit that somebody was better than him on one night without some kind of asterisk attached. 2012 was supposedly his worst year ever as a result of the loss, although he main evented several pay-per-views and won the Money in the Bank contract. You can already see the writing on the wall here, and just as predicted, Cena won the Royal Rumble and was headed to WrestleMania to get his win back against The Rock. That's exactly what happened, and he stood tall amid a flurry of vocal hatred mixed with silent disappointment. 20 plus minutes of trading signature moves and false finishes? No thanks. Number 6. WrestleMania 27 is often described as one of the worst manias in recent memory, with much of the card being disappointing from top to bottom. What stands out the most is Michael Cole vs. Jerry Lawler. I have to admit, I actually found heel Michael Cole and his coal mine announce booth to be kind of funny. That doesn't excuse the actual feud from sucking, and a match between two announcers going on for quite a while, with the entrances, match, and other segments taking up about half an hour. This clusterfuck match had Stone Cold as the referee, who repeatedly got involved with Jack Swagger, who was in Cole's corner. Lawler originally won the match via submission, but the anonymous Raw GM, remember that, reversed the decision and said Michael Cole won the match by disqualification. Nobody liked this storyline, the crowd was dead during the match, and what's even worse is they had a horrible Kiss My Foot match at the Over the Limit pay-per-view, as if people's interest wouldn't be even lower by then. Number 5, Mr. T vs Roddy Piper in a boxing match at WrestleMania 2. The first WrestleMania was a big success and gave WWF a lot of crossover appeal, with appearances from Cyndi Lauper, Muhammad Ali, and a huge main event with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. A year later, it had gotten out that Piper actually hated Mr. T because he was a celebrity main eventing a wrestling show despite being a terrible wrestler. Does that mean he's going to train to become a wrestler and have a match with Piper, or will Roddy take acting classes and challenge Mr. T to an improv contest in the ring? That would actually make more sense than the boxing match they had, and it seems to be a WrestleMania moment that isn't mentioned very much. The match didn't even end decisively, as Roddy disqualified himself during the 4th round for body slamming Mr. T. Number 4, Hulk Hogan winning the World Championship in an unscheduled title match at WrestleMania 9. After the fans retreated to a show including Undertaker vs Giant Gonzales and Doink the Clown vs Crush, the buy-rate-killing main event was Yokozuna vs Bret Hart for the WWF title. Most likely due to Yoko weighing over 500 pounds, the main event title match at WrestleMania went on for less than 9 minutes. Hulk Hogan ran down to the ring to check on Bret afterwards and was challenged to an impromptu title match, which he won in 22 seconds. Much like Roman Reigns now, a sizable chunk of fans were completely sick of Hogan at this point, and the company had to edit their VHS releases to cover up the crowd booing him, so walking out of WrestleMania as the champion was the final blow to make this one of the worst WrestleManias ever. After politicking to get the belt again despite being about to leave the company, Hogan didn't appear on TV again for several months until he was forced to lose the title on his way out. Number 3, Brock Lesnar vs Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. The phrase dream match may be a bit of a stretch, but in the early 2000s, Brock vs Goldberg sounded like a pretty good match to see happen. When you know one guy's contract is running out, it can make for a pretty boring match because it's rather obvious he's going to lose. When both guys are about to leave the company, the fans won't be too happy. Most of Madison Square Garden knew that Lesnar and Goldberg were having their final night in the company, at least at the time in Brock's case, and whether the audience thought they were being betrayed or knew that the feud would have no real payoff, they let their displeasure be heard. At one point, most of the crowd was paying more attention to a fan acting like Hulk Hogan than the actual match. The poor reaction helped cause or at least intensify what was already a botch fest between two guys who didn't give a damn about doing a good job. Steve Austin was the referee, and the only cheers given were when he stunned both men after a total shitfest of a match. Number 2, can we just say WrestleMania 2 as a whole was total garbage? I'm not listing the entire show as an item on this list, or complaining about specific or individual match quality, although I'm sure it was probably crap, I haven't seen most of it, but the planning and execution of the event. At the very least, I'll say Vince was trying new ideas to expand the company, and I know he was trying to see what would work and what wouldn't work in the early days of pay-per-view, but still. You look at WrestleMania 1, see how big that was. Why would it make sense to then fill 3 arenas across the United States and try to split the card between cities? Maybe this would work better if it sounded like a promotional slogan, like WrestleMania 2 will be so big it needs 2 arenas, each with its own main event. What really happened was each building getting 4 matches, most of which had the quality of a house show, and then showing the rest of the pay-per-view on monitors hanging up in the arena. Imagine buying front row tickets to the Chicago portion of WrestleMania 2 and getting a main event of a tag team title match and a battle royal filled with NFL players before having to watch the real main event of Hulk Hogan vs King Kong Bundy in a cage match on a TV screen while you're sitting in a giant arena. To make things even worse, this was the only WrestleMania out of all 31 so far to take place on a Monday, when everyone has to plan the show around work and school. What the hell were they thinking? Before I get to number 1, please hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I do them pretty often, not just about wrestling though, so keep that in mind. Don't comment, "Do more wrestling," because I do other shit. With that in mind, number 1. Lawrence Taylor main eventing WrestleMania 11. Do you know who Lawrence Taylor is? Probably not. Celebrity matches are clearly not for the fans' enjoyment. but to desperately try to attract new fans by pandering to pop culture. There have been some decent celebrity angles, such as Floyd Mayweather, but was Lawrence Taylor really that big of a name in comparison? Looking at the company's numbers for 1995, I don't think he brought in a single new viewer. If a non-wrestler is going to main event a wrestling show, wouldn't you think his opponent would be a top guy and not Bam Bam Bigelow? This filth closed out WrestleMania 11, despite the card also having Shawn Michaels vs Diesel for the world title, and as you can expect, Lawrence Taylor couldn't wrestle at all. One of the only moves he could do was a forearm smash, and after what looked like a botched powerbomb attempt, a flying forearm smash was all it took to put away Bam Bam, who had been wrestling for about 10 years at that point. Great way to make him look tough for the future, am I right? To everyone on the outside who doesn't watch wrestling, they would then assume that Bam Bam Bigelow is the best wrestler in the company for being in the main event, wouldn't you think? These people would have heard that a fucking football player with no training just beat the best wrestler at the biggest show of the year. It makes the whole roster sound like wimps. You damn sure wouldn't be seeing wrestlers at the Super Bowl throwing footballs better than the actual players, so why would any non-fan give WWF a chance after this?